the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's Just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Just the Nipsters.
Remember, if you've got a tip for Melissa, the crasher at your sister's wedding who looks weirdly familiar, an unidentified phone number in your 1985 date book, the last place you remember seeing your car keys, as if that's going to help. Anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host. She used to burn the midnight oil, but now she burns midnight Paris Cafe specialty candles from Bath & Body Works, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Yeah, the candle at both ends. Paris Cafe smells like coffee, and producer Mark loves it. It reminds him of his days in the coffee houses.
Yes.
And I have to say, I was always like, Bath & Body Works is bullshit. It's not real. It's fake.
Right.
And now they use soy wax and hemp wicks, and they're natural, much more natural. It's not all bullshit.
Hemp wicks. That's a good name for a band.
Hemp wicks.
The hemp wicks.
With an X.
Yeah, they're a family.
The Hempwicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
The family band, like the Partridge Family, except it's the Hempwicks.
But those candles do smell. I'm not a big candle guy, but
you're not.
They smell great.
They do. If I burn them, and producer Mark doesn't have a great sense of smell. Like I can smell, I'm sort of probably a German Shepherd. Like I can smell stuff from a long way away. And producer Mark is just like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But he can smell those candles.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, this is not a paid advertisement. We don't.
No.
We are not sponsored by Bath and Body Works.
We are not. They are not sponsors. I just. But they do have a sale right now. Buy 2 candles, get 2 free. I'm just saying. I don't get a kickback, but I do love. I have them burning different scents all over the house. But Paris Cafe is...
It really does smell like you're in a cafe, in a coffee house.
Yeah. I don't know why it's called Paris Cafe. It doesn't smell like, croissant or something. It smells like coffee.
It smells like good espresso.
It do. It very much do. I'm so glad you like it. So I wish, like anything, I could take credit for Just the Nipsters, but that was sent to us from Tipster Steve, who said, hey, I have a new podcast idea, just a short sidebar series, Just the Nipsters, and he's hearkening back to a few episodes ago when I said nipple balm. He said you check out various unique uses and application techniques for nipple balm and the people who use it. So it's so good to know that Tipster Steve hears what I say and takes it and runs down the field for
down the
100 yards.
Mildly perverted, not quite really lane.
Really? Perverted?
Yeah. Mildly kind of, like 1980s Cinemax perverted.
Cinemax, funny story. When I was in college,
here comes another one that Mark's not heard before.
Oh no, this isn't that good. I had a friend who was majoring in the same thing I was, radio, television, film, and her mother would not allow them to get the Cinemax channel because she thought it was Cinema X.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
It was just kind of Cinema R on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Oh, just a couple nights a week. Yeah, because Cinemax was like the Showtime, the HBO. They had movies. It wasn't all, just the Nipsters.
Oh, no. That was just, when they...
Nipple balm.
Late night weekend,
Gotcha. Well, you would know about that.
I have no comment at this time.
I think that's a good plan. You should probably not comment. So it's time, it's spring. Spring is sprung and all that bullshit. Time for another contest, my beloved Tipsters. But first, I would like to say thank you to our newest YouTube subscriber, Tipster Aaron. This is a traditional spelling of Aaron, E-R-I-N, as opposed to last week, which was A-Y-R-N. But either way, it's beautiful. Thank you, Tipster Aaron. And a special thank you to Tipster Beth, who is the sweetest girl on earth and wrote a beautiful review on Apple Podcasts. Took the time to do that, and we are so grateful. If you have the time and desire to write a review for us, we'd be very grateful. That seems to be a way that people find us, by reading the reviews and see what you say and see if there's something that piques their interest about our podcast. please feel free to do so on Apple Podcasts or any place that you are listening to us right now. You can always email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you in any way, shape, and form. You can call us on our Tipster hotline, which is 832-847-7837. So the contest is, I'm going to take a picture of the prize and put it on all of the social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And even on our Facebook, Just the Tipsters page. And all you have to do is either comment, I want this, or like it, or heart it, or whatever emoji, you want to.
Or hug it. They got the hugging
care,
emotion. Yeah.
The care
one.
Is that what
it's called?
If you care.
Okay.
So it's a simple contest. You don't have to have any prior knowledge of murderers or anything. It is a gift set from Bath & Body Works, which producer Mark mentioned. And it is the warm vanilla sugar. And it's like a shower gel, a moisturizer, and something else I don't remember. But it's called You Are a Unicorn. I'll have the details of what it is. I promise. I'm sorry. I'm somewhat lame today.
Well, you're going to have to go on social media to find out the details.
Right. You're going to have to do that. And 2 masks made by our beloved tipster Sandy, who is a true artisan and makes these exquisite masks and asks nothing in return. I begged her to let me, send her money to cover at least the supplies, not just her time and effort, because she's a busy woman and she does this, and they are spectacular masks, and she won't take a penny, but requested that I make a donation to a wonderful animal rescue, Dogwood, I believe it is, which I'll put that information up on the Just the Tipsters Facebook page also. So the masks are amazeballs, and they are crime scene tape. So crime scene tape going across your mouth, which is perfect for me because we all know my mouth is a crime scene. These masks are the best. It
kind of is, isn't it?
It is.
I hadn't really thought of it that way.
My mouth is a crime scene all the time. They are beautiful. You're going to get 2 masks and a wonderful set of body stuff that if it's not, let's say a dude wins, keep it for your chick. Or give it to your mom, whatever. It's great stuff.
Well, keep it for yourself.
Keep it for yourself if you like the smell of warm sugar vanilla.
We do not judge.
That's right. Everyone likes warm sugar vanilla, don't they? I mean, in their shower. It's amazing stuff. Anyway, you're right. It does not have to be for a chick. So anyone who wants it can comment. And these masks are spectacular. They are folded, so you can fold them up to if your face is smaller. You can expand them if your face is larger. The ear loops have little devices on them, so you can tighten it or loosen them to fit your face. They have wire at the top to bend over your nose, and they each come with 3 replaceable filters. The PM25 or whatever, 2.5. She puts 3 filters.
Wow.
With each mask.
That's really something.
Oh, she's amazeballs. And they are completely washable. The fabric is amazing. She got the fabric on Etsy, and she is just spectacular. And 2 of her deliciously perfect masks with crime scene tape can be yours if you comment on the picture that I will be posting when this episode goes up, which is April 6th, and the cutoff date is April 20th. We will then be drawing a name out of all the names that have entered, and we will announce it on the April 27th episode. So there you go. That's all of the housekeeping I have for now. All right, so this story was sent to us by Tipster Michelle, and Tipster Michelle is just a gem of a human being, a sweet, kind, compassionate girl. And when she sent this to me, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I really fought her hard, and it's been a month or so. It's been a while since she sent it, and I was like, all right, I will take a look at this, but this is just not one I ever wanted to cover, and I will tell you honestly that I felt that it had been covered a lot, and it hasn't. I thought it really had been just covered every way from Sunday, and there was nothing I could add to it. And I'm trying to reevaluate how I think about these things, because people are explaining to me, and it's not that I don't know this, but it's nice to hear it from an outside source, that you never know where someone is going to hear someone else's story. Not everyone watches the ID network. Not everyone listens to podcasts. Not everyone reads news online. But yet, sometimes people do one of those things or all of those things. And maybe someone who knows something important that could help solve this case once and for all, because it has had some real shitty twists and turns. Maybe someone will hear the podcast, and that's all we can hope for, right? It's, I really like cases that are already solved and adjudicated. I'm much happier and more peaceful with that. But that doesn't always, that's not the way this podcast always goes. And I try very hard to listen to the Tip-Sters, because there's no us without them. And Tipster Michelle is a special girl, and I want to do everything I can, especially something that she recommends. But this one is tough. And I will tell you that the reason I thought it had been covered so completely is because when I say we, producer Mark and I had seen an episode of People Magazine Investigates on the ID network, I believe it is, about this case, which is the missing young girl, Mikelle Biggs from Mesa, Arizona. And the reason I thought it was so widely known is because in this instance, People Magazine Investigates did a phenomenal job. I have watched all of the People Magazine Investigates. And
I bet you have.
I have. And I am happy with some of them. And some of them I've been like, well, that was just bullshit, and that was badly done. There are so many shows that take a 20-minute story and try and make it a 60-minute story, and you just repeat it. You repeat things. You add things that are not even under the category of red herring, but just, what the hell? Why was that? That wasn't important. Is this filler? So I do like. I think People Magazine Investigates has gotten better over the years. It isn't that old. It hasn't been on that long. But there are some episodes where I'm like, well, that was just a waste of time. This one is not one. I believe it is entitled Gone in 90 Seconds. And if that title doesn't grab you, the story will. It's a basket of terrible things. It is terrifying. It is maddening. It's a lot of things all at once. So let's get into this story. So beautiful little 11-year-old Mikelle Biggs. And when I say beautiful little 11-year-old, I mean she is a typical rambunctious, active 11-year-old girl, and atypical in so many ways. I feel like she was very advanced for her age. She was an old soul in an 11-year-old girl's body. But she, at the age of 11, she was, in her school's student council. And she already had adult goals. She wanted to be an animator for Disney. I mean, when I was 11, I was probably, putting glue on my hand and pulling it off, saying, look, I can see my palm print. I mean, she was a pretty advanced 11-year-old girl. She was the oldest of 4 kids. And I have a theory, it's hard to say when you're an only child, you can't, you don't really have a leg to stand on, but being married to producer Mark, who's the oldest of 7, and having several friends who were the oldest kids of, 3 or 4, older kids grow up faster. If you have younger siblings, you become not necessarily a parent
Well, you can.
You can.
I mean, it depends on how your parents treat it.
Right.
But there are certainly, I think some of it's just natural. It just kind of naturally happens.
I think that's very true. And I feel like that Mikelle stepped into that role of the older sibling just with both feet. She was just there, and she took care of the younger ones. And she was especially close to her next oldest sibling, Kimber. So Kimber was 9 and Mikelle was 11. And this is January 2nd of 1999. So it's just, a week after Christmas, and it's Mesa, Arizona, and it's about 5:50 p.m. in the evening. And both Mikelle and Kimber believe that they hear the ice cream truck music. And Mikelle says, "Mom, can I have some money? I'd like to get us some ice cream." So Tracy and Darian Biggs have these 4 kids, and Tracy is at home making dinner. Darian is, you'll find later, a little problematic in that he was not home at the time, but said he was at work, and he was not. So Tracy gives Mikelle some quarters, and I guess to make the trip faster, Mikelle borrows Kimber's brand new bike she got for Christmas, her pink and white bike. And they both head down the street to the corner of Toltec Street and El Moro Avenue. And they live on a cul-de-sac. And Kimber was a little slower because she's walking, obviously. And she says, "You know what? I'm cold. I'm going to go back home and get my coat." And she walks back home to get her coat. And Tracy Biggs says, "Go get your sister." And Kimber turns back around to go get Mikelle and sees her bike lying on its side in the street. And the front wheel is spinning. And Mikelle is gone. And they have narrowed the timeline down to 90 seconds. It was 90 seconds. Think about that. Think about the next time you see a minute and a half elapse on a clock or a stopwatch. Think about that. You are with your sister. You're going to get ice cream. The sweetest, most innocent thing that an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old can do. Go get ice cream. And you turn around to get a jacket. You walk back home. And when you turn back around, your sister's gone. Your bike is on its side in the middle of the street. Turned back around, by the way, coming your way. It wasn't at the corner. It wasn't on the side of the street. It was in the middle of the street, headed back toward their house.
Oh,
and the
God.
wheel is spinning in the air.
That's just...
And she is gone.
That's awful.
There are 2 quarters on the road that were obviously in her hand that were dropped. And she is gone. So Tracy Biggs says to Kimber, "Go ask the Millers. Go ask the, what do you mean your sister's gone?" Maybe she just went in. Kimber goes to the Millers' home, and no, they haven't seen Mikelle. They immediately, one of the older boys in the Miller home comes out and helps to search for her, and goes back with Kimber to Tracy Biggs and says, "Mikelle's missing. We can't find her." Within an hour, there are flyers being printed. The police have been called. They are combing the area. There are police dogs that sense that her scent. There are police dogs that find her scent just a few feet from the bike. And that's it. It stops. Her scent is nowhere. Now, they believe that means she was put into a vehicle. I don't know that that's true, but, I don't know a whole lot about the efficacy of scent dogs. I mean, I love dogs and I've seen them do amazing things. I also have seen them be very, wanting to please their trainers and want a treat. So I don't understand. I don't know how a car couldn't have been heard, even by Kimber. It just, but I also don't know how to explain that her scent was gone. It was as if she had evaporated.
It sure does sound like somebody just drove by and swooped her up.
It does. So, of course, Mesa PD has their first suspect, and that's Mikelle's father, Darren Biggs. So what they found out was that he, Tracy calls him and he says he's at work, and he was not at work. He was at a quote unquote friend's house. And here's the problematic part. When you're an adult and you're doing something you shouldn't have done, and something terrible happens, like one of your children goes missing, it's going to look bad for you. And this is really a testament to Mesa PD. But when they found out that, Darren confessed he was having an affair, that's where he really was, they had a tail on him for a year.
A year?
1 year he was kept under surveillance every fucking day. How much did that cost? How much did everything involving this cost? Mesa PD says this is the most expensive investigation they've ever had in the history of their police department. Was all of the money used in the correct way? I don't know. Do you need to follow Darren Biggs for a year? Maybe. He failed a voluntary polygraph test, but they actually said pretty much right away, that could have been that could have fluctuated so much because he was so emotional at the time of the test because his daughter's missing.
Right, and he'd just been discovered having an affair.
Right. So it takes a little while, and I will tell you, I'm not saying this is a fault of Mesa PD, because they said they checked out every, known sex offender in the area. I'm not sure how Dee Blaylock got under the radar until about a year after Mikelle's disappearance. He did something that brought him back to the radar. And he lived 2 blocks away. Now, I will tell you that he actually appeared in some local CBS news reports while Mikelle, right after Mikelle's disappearance. And he said, if I see something suspicious going on around your house, you can better believe I'll be calling 911. Well, it wasn't, that long after Mikelle went missing when he thought he got away with something and 911 was called on him. His neighbor, Susan Quinnett, who ironically also happened to be Mikelle's piano teacher, that she would just safely walk 2 blocks to her piano class and walk back, and there was never a problem. But she takes her sister's bike to go get ice cream, and she's gone. But a year or so after Mikelle's disappearance, Susan Quinnett, who had, by the way, tried, without involving law enforcement, had tried to warn Dee Blaylock's wife and said, look, your husband is bothering me. He'll sometimes be in my yard. And he lived across the street from Susan Quinnett, which is 2 blocks from Mikelle's house. He'll be in my yard. He drinks. He'll approach me and he'll try and put his hands on me. And I tell him to go home. But this day was really bad. Susan Quinnett walks into her house, and Dee Blaylock is hiding behind her refrigerator with his pants down and his penis out.
Oh, good. Great.
He approaches her and she says, "What are you doing here? Go home. Get out." And before she can get to the phone to call 911, he is on her. She says, he smells of alcohol. He is drunk. He tries to break her neck 3 times. He succeeds one of the times, and he rapes her.
He breaks her neck and then he rapes her.
And she survived.
Oh my God.
She, after he leaves, she crawled to the phone and called 911. And suddenly, there's this person on their radar, and Susan Quinnett says, "Look, I understand this is an odd thing for me to say, but I'm going to tell you, I think he killed Mikelle Biggs. I think he did this." She even offered to drop the charges against Blaylock if he would confess to killing Mikelle.
Oh my.
And I am grateful that she did not, because of what he tried to do, which is kill her. He now has 187 years in prison. And if she had dropped that, we wouldn't know where he is. So,
Right.
I know. So here's where things sort of become unraveled. He had an alibi, which was his wife. Now he has been arrested and convicted and is in prison. And the police find out his wife was very timid and very pushed down and would say anything that he told her to say. So that airtight alibi about him being in his garage at the time of Mikelle's disappearance, 2 blocks away, and that, his wife can confirm it, isn't really as airtight as we imagine. She finally softens her statement and says, "Well, I brought him sandwiches out to the garage that evening, and he told me not to come back."
Well then.
So I don't know if Mikelle Biggs was at his home. I can tell you he had a trailer outside of his home that he sold, got rid of, destroyed before the police could examine it. They went to every home in the area and only one person wouldn't allow them in, but he was an older gentleman who didn't want his house searched for whatever his reasons was, but he has been, taken off the list. They really cannot find anyone else that they can name as a suspect other than Dee Blaylock. They have really gone to great lengths. When I say this was the most expensive investigation in Mesa PD history, it isn't because they didn't try to turn over every stone. January 9th of 1999, there were a couple of freshly dug graves that they thought could be related. They investigated all of that. That was nothing. I mean, I feel a little bad saying that. I don't want to say they wasted a year looking at Darren Biggs. I mean, you fail a polygraph, you're having an affair. It sure doesn't mean you got rid of or did something to your child. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just uncomfortable that I feel they spent so much time, looking at Darren Biggs when it, was obviously someone else. So I can tell you that there was a possible suspect sketch that was made. Someone saw someone in the area. And oh my God, it's Dee Blaylock. It's as if someone said, well, here's a picture of Dee Blaylock. This is the guy who did it. This is just someone who was in the area. Okay. Just
somebody who doesn't know Blaylock.
That's right. And I also hate to say this, but it's been reported that these sketches were not pushed very hard in the media because they, at the time didn't think it was Dee Blaylock until he raped and tried to kill Susan Quinette. It's just the whole thing is just this is I love you, Tipster Michelle, and this is just the worst thing ever. I hate this with all my heart. I don't have kids. I barely remember being a kid, but the thought of a beautiful, innocent girl with such promise being snatched, I don't even know the best word, being taken and disappearing from her family and from her life. Think of the joy she could have brought not just her family, but the rest of the world if she became an animator for Disney. I mean, these are the things that keep me up at night. And I'm not blaming you, Tipster Michelle, but I'm kind of blaming you, Tipster Michelle.
We love you, Tipster Michelle.
We love you, Tipster Michelle. But this is just, every step of the way, it just becomes a little bit worse.
Yeah, and the frustrating, to me, the frustrating thing, or the haunting part of this, is that while it probably was Dee Blaylock, it could have just been a random freak driving by at that particular moment.
You're absolutely right.
And that's what just is so haunting about this story.
You're absolutely right. And I will tell you that small amount of doubt is what keeps Darren Biggs from not trying to kill Dee Blaylock. That's just literally the truth. After he was convicted of raping and attempting to murder Susan Quinette, the Biggs family wrote Dee Blaylock several letters in prison, and he ignored most of them. But at some point, he said, "I need to make things right with your family." And they thought that this was his way of saying, "I'd like to tell you what happened." And Tracy and Darren Biggs go to the prison, and Darren Biggs says, "I'm sitting across from him. The only thing separating us is that piece of glass." And it sounds like Darren Biggs felt like he could have broken through that to kill him. But as usual, Dee Blaylock spent the entire time denying everything. Tracy Biggs said he got angry a few times, but never walked away from them. They spent an hour and a half talking to Dee Blaylock about that day in January where their daughter disappeared. And he swore he has no knowledge of it, did nothing. He did say odd things like, "I can't be held responsible for what my other personality does."
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Now, Tracy Biggs said to herself, "Well, yeah, you can. You're crazy, and that isn't a good enough excuse to do something to my daughter." So in 2004, on the 5th anniversary of Mikelle's disappearance, the Biggs family had what's known as an empty casket funeral for Mikelle, which is, heartbreaking. It was a white casket topped with Mikelle's favorite color is purple, and they topped the casket with purple flowers. And when it was basically just a symbol for the family, because there is no such thing as closure. Even if it's a ceremony that you sanction for your child just so you can celebrate her life in some small way, that's not closure. There's no such thing as closure in this kind of case. So in 2018, an odd thing happened that I just hate that this happened. And at first you think this is a beautiful thing and we're onto something, and then you think it's probably just someone being an asshole and it's a hoax. But again, we really won't know. That's the thing, we won't know. In 2018, a dollar bill shows up in Wisconsin, and it was used as a donation for someone who was buying Girl Scout cookies. And on the edge of the dollar bill is written, "My name is Mikelle Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa AZ. I'm alive." Now, the investigators were, "This is amazing. It also is heartbreaking in that Mikelle's name was spelled wrong. Her name is spelled Mikelle. On the dollar bill, it says, my name is Mikelle Biggs, kidnapped from Mesa, Arizona. I'm alive.
Oh, man.
Now, here are some odd things. The dollar bill was printed in 2009. It's found in 2018 in Wisconsin. They check the handwriting. They think it's not Mikelle's handwriting. And would she have misspelled her own name?
No.
Right.
No.
Let's say you're 11 and something happens and you're taken from your family. Let's say you're kidnapped and you're still alive. Let's say you have endured a lot of trauma, Stockholm syndrome, where you don't feel like you're able to leave. Would you abbreviate your name because you ran out of time? There's theories that the way it's written on the border of the dollar bill, which is, it's not a lot of room, that she ran out of room. I don't know.
So frustrating.
Right. I don't know that any of that is true. I mean, I guess we could debate that forever and ever, but at 11, most 11-year-olds are pretty savvy. And even in 1999, Mikelle was like more than savvy. She was so smart and so just like full of life. And I can't imagine her writing a note to get away from a bad situation on a dollar bill and then spelling her name wrong. It's just an opinion. I could be wrong. We see these things happen. J.C. Dugard, the girls from Cleveland, which, by the way, both of those happened in 2009, the same year that dollar bill was printed. Just an odd.
Yeah, it's odd.
It is an odd thing. So it is, it's heartbreaking and was still sort of considered a hoax. I mean, I guess I get that. I mean, it's, how does a dollar bill, could she have been kidnapped by someone who took her across the country to Wisconsin? Potentially. If the dollar bill was printed in 2009 but not found until March of 2018, could it have been in circulation and gone around the country?
Who knows?
Right. I mean, there have been so many, I don't want to say hoaxes, but, in March of 1999, there was supposedly a man who tried to abduct two girls, a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old. But it, and they were like, oh my God, this is the same person who did this. But it turns out that was a hoax. Now, I'm not calling this a hoax, but I'm going to tell you that online there is a psychic who says Mikelle Biggs is alive and lives in Las Vegas with her abductor in an apartment that they've lived in the entire time. Now, it's 22 years later. I 11 is such an age that it's like you're right on the precipice of, being a teenager, but you're still a little girl. And in either time of your life, would you, after you become an adult, would you be able to break away from someone? Would you, if you were being held, if you had been kidnapped and were still alive, you've made a life, this person's made a life with you. I mean, the only thing, and I guess I just want her to be alive, and I know the chances are she's probably not. The only thing I can think of is the young girl that was kidnapped as a 8-hour-old infant and raised by a single mother who she loved, who she felt was a good mother, even though this woman dressed as a nurse and stole a baby from a family who wanted a baby and who had a baby. And she did not know until she was 16 or 17 when she went to apply for a job and needed her Social Security card. And her mother, the abductor, admits what happened. Look, I'm not your biological mother. I stole you. And do you know what? She stayed with her mom. She got to meet her real mom. She got to meet her real family. And said, this was the best mother I could ever hope for. I know.
And the birth parents did not have her arrested, or maybe the statute had already run. I don't know.
I really don't know. I don't know that she did jail time, or all I knew, I was just so stunned that the young girl who grew up, was a fine young lady and loved her mother and said her mother was the best mother she could ever hope for. I don't know if something happened in the meet with her biological parents, but she's just like, yeah, no, this is my mom. It's the only mom I've ever known, and she did a great job of raising me.
Okay.
Right. So I have great respect for people who want to work on cases of missing persons or unsolved homicides that have the ability, but I also know there's a whole lot of bullshit out there. And this guy is, controversial. He's a big personality, and he says these things come to him in dreams, and maybe he's right. Maybe we'll all find out at some point, that Mikelle has been living with her abductor for 22 years in an apartment in Vegas. I don't know. That's not the life I would want for her, but, I would want her to be with her family who misses and loves her with all of their heart. So the Biggs parents have divorced, and their daughter Kimber has picked up the mantle. The Biggs family, according to Kimber's, the parents, Tracy and Darren, spent 10 years fighting hard for Mikelle, and then they had to back away because it was so difficult. And so, there are people who would say, I'll never stop looking for you. And I know that's what the Biggs parents feel, but I cannot imagine how exhausting and depleting to your soul it would be to constantly be looking for your daughter or looking for your sister or trying to find details or information or clues or something about where she might be. I mean, so Kimber, has picked up the mantle. She has done interviews. She has a Facebook page. She writes a blog. And with every word, you can feel her pain, her sorrow, her loss. I swore I wasn't going to cry. So Kimber, who is an adult now, married with kids of her own, understands to the best of her ability what her parents went through. I mean, she can't imagine it, but she understands the love of having your own kids and what would happen if one of them disappears. I believe Kimber puts a lot of guilt on herself. Like if she had walked with her sister all the way down to the end of the street instead of going back to get a coat, that wouldn't have happened. And honestly, I'm not sure that both of them wouldn't be gone.
Exactly.
But you understand why she feels the way she does. And being 9 years old, you don't get told everything. A lot of what she has found out, she had to become an adult to find out. She found out that, they didn't have a warrant for the trailer that Dee Blaylock had on his property. And when they finally did get a warrant, he had gotten rid of the trailer. He showed up at a candlelight vigil they had for her. Dee Blaylock did. And he is the one who answered her family when he was in jail. There are people who have asked Kimber, has your family or has law enforcement ever had any sort of a profiler who's, good at looking at, nonverbal communication or body language, talk to Dee Blaylock in prison? And Kimber said they have, and that's why they think it's him. I'd love to have them do it again, though. I don't know if it would bring her the answers she's looking for, but she is doing the best she can, and I'm proud of her because she is also taking care of herself. So this is from Kimber's Facebook page for Mikelle. And she said, as of late, it's been very difficult for me to personally keep Mikelle in the public eye. I haven't wanted to be active on her justice page, nor have I been agreeing to do interviews. It definitely takes a toll on me, and with everything else happening in my life, it gets pushed back on the priority list. While I have many amazing and supportive people following the page, I deal with a lot of messages from people either giving gruesome tips, which I have asked them not to tell me, or saying very insensitive things. I think that's one of the most important things to point out in a cold case. The family doesn't ever get over it, and we don't take these comments easily. Time does not heal all wounds. It's been 22 years, but when someone tries to give me a tip, it feels like it just happened all over again. And I believe it's a civic duty to say something when you think you know something. But going about it through the proper channels is crucial. And we will give you the information of where you can submit a tip. Kimber goes on to say, I want the public to remember Mikelle. I want them to honor and respect her memory. I often talk about how talented and smart she was because I want people to feel as if they had the pleasure of knowing her. To make it personal to them is to reach more people and to hopefully find some answers. Mikelle was the best person I've ever known. Sassy, smart, funny, kind. At the age of 11, she had more confidence and zest for life than I think I've ever had. She would have led such an amazing, successful life. My parents spent 10 years doing a truly amazing job of searching for answers and keeping Mikelle's case well known. After that, they had to step back a bit, and it took me a few years before I felt like I wanted to take the reins. That's when I made the Justice for Mikelle Biggs Facebook page, and eventually a blog, which I'm terrible at updating. I've been in trauma therapy for a couple of years now, and I'm starting to feel like I can truly write the book my heart has been silently writing in my mind. Not only about Mikelle and her case, but about how being taken from me has defined so many things about who I am today. I hope to be able to have a physical text of everything I feel and all of the memories about her. I hope that it will not only keep Mikelle in the forefront of everyone's mind, but also help other families cope. I have always wanted to help people, children especially, cope with this type of trauma. If I can help one child like me, I'll consider it a success. So that is why I did not reach out to Kimber. She is very vocal and wants to help her sister's case, and I also don't want to bring things back up in her mind when she is working so hard on healing herself. And you can tell someone's story this way in a podcast without opening up the wounds for the family. And I'm going to tell you that her blog that she says she is terrible at updating is beautiful. And if Kimber writes a book, I think it's going to be a beautiful tome because she's a very good writer. And this section of one of her blog posts is, I think, a very beautiful thing I'm going to read to you. What I read previously was she just wrote in February of 2021, and I just did not want to contact her, and I've never said that. I think because I've read the blog and because she is so open and honest and raw about how she feels about what she's doing, and timing is everything, I believe this is a time she needs to take care of herself, but it sure doesn't mean we have to stop talking about Mikelle's story. So one of her blog posts says, "My pink and white bike, my mom's yellow sweater, my brother's rosy cheeks, my baby sister's dark hair, my dad's silver glasses. I think he has a white shirt on, definitely wearing light blue Levi's. The street in the winter sunset looks blue and hazy. My fingertips are slightly purple. The white tire on my pink and white bike still spinning eerily. The brown gate to my house scratches my arm. Our once tan house looks gray in the blue haze. Mikelle's blonde hair flying through the wind. I can see her teeth and her big smile. I can see her blue jeans being a tad too short for her long legs. They're flared jeans. Flashes of gray and blue haunt me. Pictures flood my mind like an old movie reel. Bits and pieces are fuzzy, but the colors are vivid. They are shouting memories at me. The house is glowing with a yellow hue, every light on as the house fills with more people. We have blue-green carpet. I stare at the carpet that my parents are standing on. I see shiny black shoes. I see a silver badge. I see my mom's face and it's pale. The light is so bright I'm squinting into the bright light of our kitchen. I can faintly see the red shirt that she was wearing while riding my pink and white bike. The light fades, the colors lose their intensity. Everything becomes dull and muddy. Tell us about January 2nd, 1999. What do you remember about that day? Walk us through what you remember. I try to put into elegant words. What I remember. I try to form sentences and memories that make sense, but it's only flashes. I don't remember details before I left her on the street. I don't remember much after the police were called. Everything goes dark. I wrote this to explain what's going through my mind every time I get asked these questions. And I am proud of Kimber for going to trauma therapy because I'm hoping it will help her to come to terms with this is not her fault. This is not her parents' fault. This is the fault of a monster. And I hope she writes that book because I think it will be helpful to anyone in her situation and even to those of us blessedly not in her situation because she is a beautiful writer. And if you know anything, if you suspect something, no matter how small, please call the Mesa PD at 480-644-2211 or Silent Witness anonymously at 1-800-343-TIPS, 1-800-343-8477, and more cowbell.
If you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.